Okay, Psalm number 10. This is a couple of unique things about this psalm. We mentioned last month on Psalm 9 that there are those who think Psalm 9 and 10 used to be one psalm and they got divided somehow. They're similar but different enough that they seem to be different psalms. But it is interesting that this psalm does not have a title. I mean, the Bible editors, like mine says Psalm 10, the pressure of the poor is what it's about. But in terms of a Psalm of David or something like that, there's nothing like that in Psalm 10, like with most of the other Psalms. So why that is, we don't know, but some think because it's supposed to be part of Psalm 9, but we're looking at it separately here. I have 4 devotional thoughts to share from this psalm this afternoon. Number 1, that we need to have biblical views of money. Biblical views of money. You can learn from this psalm. Not going to read the whole psalm at this time, but I'd like to read the first 3 verses right now. Why standest thou afar off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? And obviously, God doesn't hide, but that was the view that the psalmist had, that God wasn't answering his prayers, God wasn't helping him, whatever the specifics are. And so he concluded that God is far away and hiding. Here's what the psalmist was facing. Verse 2, the wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth. And if you go down to verse number 8, the wicked, the ones that the psalmist is dealing with, just is mistreating the poor. Several times it's stated. Verse 8, he's, talking about the wicked still, sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. In the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. He lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net. He croucheth and humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones. Now clearly this is poetic. He's not necessarily crouching down and like a lion, not a net caught for them, but he's mistreating the poor just because they're poor. It doesn't say the poor did anything, the poor is a sinner, the poor spoke against the wicked or whatever. It's all in the heart of the wicked that they look at the poor and they despise them, look down upon them. And so verse 2, they persecute them. Verse 3 or 8 through 10, they are like trapping them, causing problems for the poor. A few weeks back on a Wednesday night, one of the parables, we saw a similar theme about how we need a proper view of money. And in this case, the wicked ones that probably David, but the writer is talking about, view money as a sign of importance, sign of goodness. If you got money, you must be a good person. If you got money, you're important to us. If you don't have money, you're not important to us. In the book of Galatians, Apostle Paul talks about meeting with Peter, James, and John when he traveled to Jerusalem. And they talk about the gospel in part, and Paul was sent to preach the gospel to the Gentiles. But Peter, James, and John told him as well to basically remember the poor. Don't, probably not just provide money, but preach the gospel as well to the poor. But take care of them. Don't look down on them because they're poor. And Paul said we're glad to do that, Galatians 2. And that's the attitude that we should have towards those who don't have a lot of money, not to despise them, look down on them, do what we can to help them instead, and share the gospel with them when we have opportunity to do that. Probably most of us have experienced some degree of poorness, poverty in our lives, your childhood. Maybe you were newly married, didn't have much money, retired. Maybe all of the above. Could be. Nothing wrong with that. If it's the result of laziness, that's one thing, but work hard. There's some jobs that pay a lot more than other jobs pay. It's just the way life is. But today, when we look at those who are poor, do what we can for them. Pray for them, help them, provide things for them if possible. We have that red barrel over next door. I appreciate the people bring stuff in. It gets filled at the most every month, sometimes twice a month, of groceries that the food bank distributes. That's a simple thing, but one example of how we can have a biblical view. Don't look down on people because they're poor. Help them instead. Look also at verse number 3, Psalm 10. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire. So he wants something, he brags about that. Whether he has or not, he's bragging about it. And he blesses the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth. So here's somebody breaking the 10th commandment, thou shalt not covet, and the wicked looks up to him and praises him, blesses him. He despises the poor, mistreats them, persecutes them, but somebody who is covetous, he praises. God abhors that. God says, don't do that. This type of person here looks up to that one. Whether you have anything or not, if you're striving to get ahead, if you're striving to get more money, covetous, that's the guy I want as my friend, not these poor people. We kind of tend to think that, not us personally, but that's just kind of society. The rich are better than we are, which have enjoy life more than we possibly could. A TV show, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. There's Robin Leach did that. And there's no such TV show of lifestyles of the poor and unknown, or poor and downtrodden. There's no such show as that. We don't care about them so much. Biblically, we should. God says, Jesus said, you have the poor with you always. Help them when you have opportunity to. So that's lesson 1. Have a biblical view of money. Don't give it a greater importance than it has. Number 2, some people have distorted views of God. Distorted views of God. Verse 4, the wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after God. God is not in all of his thoughts. They don't seek after God. They have no interest in God. And they look down on the poor. They're living for money, evidently. They bless the covetous. That's what's important to them. God doesn't matter. They don't think about God. The way that's worded, again, different translation might word it different, but the end of that 4th verse, God is not in all his thoughts. And the way that's worded is, you could say, well, God is not in 100% of his thoughts, but some of the thoughts, 50%, 25%, whatever, just not all of them. That's really not what this means. Maybe we could translate the word all by the word any. God is not in any of his thoughts. Instead of 100% or 50%, it's 0%. This person just never thinks about God. Maybe on his deathbed he will, but throughout his life, he doesn't care, doesn't think about God at all. When they talk about God, look down at verse 11. And that's bad enough to just rule God out. Don't even act as if there is no God. But verse 11, and talk about the same person, the wicked one who despises the poor. Verse 11, he hath said in his heart, God hath forgotten. He hideth his face, and he will never see it. God forgets. God doesn't see what we're doing, so we're good. We can get away with whatever it is that we're doing. Coveting, mistreating the poor, robbing, or anything else. God doesn't see it, and as well, he doesn't remember it. He forgets. None of those are true, of course. God sees everything, and God never forgets. We do. I remember hearing a poem years ago. You know Bill Gaither, the song musician guy? He's the one I first heard say this on a recording. Talking about old people. Said, I can live with my arthritis, and my dentures fit just fine. I can see with my bifocals, but oh, how I miss my mind. And that's life. We forget things, more so as we get older. God doesn't. And the statement of verse 11, God has forgotten, is wishful thinking, but it's not true. The only thing God forgets, if you want to use that word, are sins and iniquities. Hebrews and Old Testament, your sins and iniquities I'll remember no more. He probably doesn't forget them in the sense that we forget some. He just says, I'm not going to remember them against you. He can't blot them out of his mind, perhaps, but he's not going to bring them up again. Praise the Lord for that. But for those who are the wicked, God keeps track of everything. He remembers it all. But they think, God doesn't see, God forgets, we're good. And that's not true. Distorted views of God, not thinking about him and what they think God is like, they're wrong about. Number 3, if our trust is not in the Lord only, it's misplaced. If we don't trust in the Lord only, then our trust is misplaced. Look at verse number 6. Interesting statement. Again, talking about the same person or type of person. He hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. Now you look at that and you could say, that sounds like a thing a Christian would say. And that's true. Just turn over a page or so to Psalm 16 and verse number 8. This is David writing this about himself. Psalm 16:8, I have set the Lord always before me. Because he is at my right hand, I shall not be moved. So for a child of God who's trusting in the Lord and relying upon him, God is always before me, he will not be moved. He will not be upset. He will not be cast aside. Life won't be turned into chaos. I shall not be moved. Those are good words for a Christian to say and to believe and practice. My dad, again, going back to childhood, I can remember my childhood. I can't remember yesterday, but I can remember my childhood. But we'd ask Dad, can we go get ice cream or something like that? And Dad, he would often say no. And then we'd turn to begging, please, let's go. And back then, I haven't heard this song in years and years, but there's a Southern gospel song that used these words, I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. You heard that? Okay. Dad would start singing that. And that was the most annoying song. Southern Gospel Quartet, I loved it. Dad singing it, that was annoying. Because when Dad started singing that, we knew the answer was definitely no. We're not getting it out for ice cream. Just give up. We could not move Dad. As believers, we will not be moved. Trusting in the Lord, I shall not be moved, Psalm 16. But for an unsaved person, Psalm 10, verse 6, he hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved. I shall never be in adversity. Nothing bad will ever happen to me. That man, as wrong as he was talking about God forgets, he hides, doesn't see, he's equally wrong talking about himself. I'm not going to be moved. I'm never going to have any problems. Keep a mark in Psalm 10 for a moment. Turn to Psalm 73. Psalm 73. And this wicked person, unsaved person, trusting in himself, his money, his goodness, his circumstances better than other people, so he's set. Psalm 73 says kind of the same thing from a believer's perspective, looking at the wicked and saying, man, they've got it made. Verse 3, I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no bands in their death. Their strength is firm. They are not in trouble, adversity, like Psalm 10. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore pride compasses them about as a chain. Violence covers them as a garment. Their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than heart could wish. In Psalm 10, they bless the covetous. They have more than heart could wish. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily. They set their mouth against the heavens. Their tongue walketh through the earth. Therefore his people return. Waters of a full cup are wrung out to them. And they say, how doth God know? He doesn't see, he forgets. Is there knowledge in the Most High? Behold, these are the ungodly who prosper in the world, they increase in riches. Kind of the same thought. Again, this is Asaph, the Bible tells us, godly man, musical man, looking at the wicked and saying, man, they've got it made. But then we go down towards the end of the psalm, verse 18. Surely thou didst set them, this is him talking to God, surely thou didst set them in slippery places. Thou cast them down into destruction. How are they brought into desolation as in a moment they are utterly consumed with terrors? The wicked person says, I'm good. I'm set for life. I shall not be moved, never have adversity. And sometimes we get that same thinking about people, they got it made, they're fine. But look at what God says. They just like that, their lives could end. Just like that, they could lose everything in a moment, brought into desolation. Unless we ever get discouraged and say, oh, they have and I don't have. Go down to verse 23. Nevertheless, despite all he's been thinking about the wicked, their lives are good, nevertheless, I am continually with thee. Thou hast held me by my right hand. Thou shalt guide me with thy counsel, and afterward receive me to glory. Whom have I in heaven but thee? And there is none upon earth that I desire besides thee. My flesh and my heart faileth, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. We never have anything to say, woe is me about. We can look at other people and rejoice with them that rejoice, say, okay, God bless you, but you need to get saved. If you're trusting in that to get to heaven, if you don't think you're ever going to need the Lord, you better think again. But for the believer, we have in this life and the next life. Who have I in heaven besides thee? There's none on earth I desire besides God as well. If our trust is in the Lord only, it's misplaced. So make sure you're trusting in him. Final thought, number 4, back in Psalm 10 again. Knowing who God is helps us know that all will be well. All will be well. I love how the psalm ends. Most of the psalm is talking about the wicked, how bad they are in terms of treating other people, mistreating other people, how good they have, at least how good they think they have it. But look at the end of the psalm, down to verse 16. Now let's start in verse 12. Let's read the end, 12 through 18. Arise, O Lord, O God, lift up thine hand. Forget not the humble. Wherefore doth the wicked condemn God? He hath said in his heart, thou wilt not require it. Again, God's not going to hold me accountable for this that I do. Thou hast seen it. Thou beholdest mischief and spite to requite it with thy hand. The poor committeth himself unto thee. Thou art the helper of the fatherless. Break the arm of the wicked and the evil man. Seek out his wickedness till thou find none. And God remembers. God knows all about it. Then the last 3 verses, 16 through 18. The Lord is king forever and ever. The heathen are perished out of his land. Lord, thou hast heard the desire of the humble. Thou wilt prepare their heart. Thou wilt cause thine ear to hear, to judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the man of the earth may no more oppress. The whole psalm, for the most part, talk about the wicked, how bad they are. Verses 12 through 15, basically a prayer. God, help us in our oppression, help those that are oppressed. But then verse 16, the Lord is king forever and ever. The psalm is not talking about control of the world, the nations of the world. Psalm 10 is simply talking about poor people having difficulties, being oppressed by others. But the psalmist appeals to this fact here. God, the Lord is king. He's in control of everything. And he's in control of the nations, the armies, etc., of the world. He's in control of every single individual circumstance as well. That being the case, the Lord is king forever and ever. If God is king, then God is in control. And therefore, number 4, we can know that all is going to be well. God's got it in hand, and all is good. He loves us. He cares for us no matter what. King of the earth, and yet caring for each one of us as well. So just a few little thoughts on Psalm 10. Proper view of money, biblical view of money, some distorted views of God. Trust in the Lord and recognize that all is well for God's people. Good psalm.